Hello everyone, welcome back to I Dream of Indie. This is Ole Gamer Joe here with another review for you today. We're looking at Return One-Way Trip, which comes from developer Red Ego Games and was published by Green Man Gaming Publishing. This one will be releasing just in time for spooky season, October 14th of 2020, onto the Steam PC platform. There is a demo currently available as well if you so wish to check that out. And what you have here is not a survival horror game whatsoever. It's actually a 2D side-scroller with a lot of puzzle elements. This is a game that almost feels like a point-and-click adventure game at times, but you do have free-roaming movement. As many great horror stories begin, Return starts with a group of 5 college students heading out into the woods to go on a camping trip to celebrate their graduation. But of course, things don't go quite as planned, as Saki, who is the main character of this game, goes off to find some firewood at one point as the fire is getting low, and discovers a haiku out in the woods, which appears to be a love letter to her, but thinking it's from her fiancé, it ends up that's not the case. As she slips the note back into the fiancé's tent, he discovers the note and then gets really ticked off, thinking somebody on this trip has a thing for his girl. This sets off a chain of events of everyone getting really angry, separating, and you discovering a spooky train that is full of mystery and intrigue, and that sets off the bigger story of this game, this haunted train, and discovering both its past and its present. From here, as you try to explore this train and find your friends once again, you are introduced to the gameplay, which is really simple in Return. All you really have to do is walk about the different locations and find magnifying glasses, which will allow you to click on objects and other items. There's no combat in the game whatsoever, which makes things pretty simple, and there are some puzzles that you'll come across as well. Some of these involve sliding different items into the right spot, or maybe even putting combinations together through clues that you've gathered. But most of these puzzles aren't too difficult. I was only stuck at one point in this game in Chapter 8 because I missed a minor detail, but this is pretty easy going for the most part. This isn't a game that is super challenging. And honestly, I didn't mind that. I don't always like to rack my brain for hours and hours in puzzle games, particularly in horror games, so I did enjoy the pacing of this game. It starts out a little slow and you can't actually run for whatever reason till a bit later in the game, but once you can, the pace does quicken a bit, despite the fact that the gameplay is really simplistic. You will from time to time switch between both the present day train, which is haunted and disturbing, and the train before all of this happened with some characters from the past that you can also play as. And though there aren't a ton of different settings, most of the game will take place on this train. It utilizes the reoccurring areas in some interesting ways. For example, a chapter that you had previously played might have had a room that didn't seem all that important, but as you progress through the game, that room might have something for you in it. So I like the fact that this game uses the same setting so effectively and in some really interesting ways. And that even carries over to the game's dialogue, which can be a little hit or miss, and there are a few typos here or there, but for the most part is engaging enough. And another cool little feature that ties into the writing a bit is the fact that you'll have certain characters tag along with you at certain points in the story, and they'll react to things that you had previously seen, which I thought was kind of neat. They went the extra mile to go ahead and write some new dialogue. Overall though, in terms of gameplay, if you're looking for action, you won't really find that here, but the game will keep you invested in terms of its storytelling, and the puzzles are mostly fun and well implemented. Graphically, I really quite enjoy Return One-Way Trip's look for the most part. It has some beautiful pixel art actually, and it's very well animated. We were actually streaming this game before this review, and some of the folks in the chat were commenting that the portrait art could have used a little bit more detail. I somewhat agree with that. I think if they did embrace the pixel art aesthetic fully, and that translated over to the portrait art as well, say like something you saw in Hotline Miami, I think that could have been really cool and maybe fit the aesthetic better, but what you get instead in terms of character portrait art is pretty static, stale images of these characters. Not terrible, but not great. I also think the actual text boxes are a little bit stale. They didn't bother me too much, but the game could have used a little bit of refinement around its presentation, and that's a bit of a shame because it does look so excellent in motion. I really can't complain on the whole here though. I'm a big fan of pixel art, and this has some great art in it. The sound effects and sound design, music in general, is actually really good in this title as well. You have some creepy atmospheric tones going on here, some piano scattered about, not a ton of musical compositions, but the sound effects are really effective. I recommend turning the lights down and turning the music up on this one because there's tons of creepy noises going on here. Really good sound design. I ended up really enjoying Return One Way Trip, even though the title could have used a bit of work in my opinion. I think this game is spooky. It's not terrifying, but it did give me the chills at certain moments. It's a lot of fun to play with a group of friends for sure, if you're into that kind of thing, and it has a really nice art style with some fun, challenging enough puzzles, but nothing that will rack your brain too much. But it's really the storytelling here that steals the show. It will grip you from beginning to end, and ultimately I was satisfied with the conclusion of this game. So overall, if you're a fan of horror games and you like the puzzle aspects of them more than the combat, then Return One Way Trip is an awesome title for you to check out. So will you be exploring the spooky train of Return One Way Trip? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you have enjoyed our video coverage today, consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps us to bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming. There's a ton of other ways that you can support I Dream of Indie down in the description box below. We have a Discord where you can chat along with us, as well as memberships here at the channel, which gets you some awesome perks, some shows early, and much more. However you end up supporting us though, we thank you so much.